Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Bersin, and I'm privileged to interview Ashutosh Garg today to hear about the role of Eightfold in this incredibly interesting world of AI in HR.
Thank you, Josh. I'm Ashutosh Garg. I'm the CEO, co-founder at Eightfold.ai, and fascinated to have this conversation today with Josh.
AI has suddenly become one of the most important issues in the world, and certainly in the role of HR. What role do you see Eightfold playing in this transformation?
We started the company 6 years back, and our key thesis was employment is the most fundamental thing in our society. And our thing was that can we actually use the power of AI and machine learning to understand people's potential? Not what they have done, but what they can do next. So that we can live in the world of skills. We can really understand the skill capability of every individual. Now, especially over the last 1 year, as AI has become a lot more mainstream, there are two things that are happening. One is the rate at which AI is maturing, enabling number of processes that can be taken over by AI. And in that case, Eightfold AI is playing a leading role in assisting HR professionals in doing their job in a more consistent, unbiased fashion on one side. But second is, with the changes in AI coming in, every role in the world is changing. How I'm doing my job, how you're doing your job, how everyone else is doing their job. And the implication of that is now HR professionals have taken the front seat in guiding the organization in this changing world of AI.
How do you maintain privacy and security in all of these really important decisions that need to be made?
At the heart of this is, it's not about an individual. It's not about who's John or Mary. It is about skills. What skill a person has, how these skills are developing over time, how this is reflected in the success they are having in their job, and what is it leading to their future development. So it's really all about that. So at Eightfold, when we talk about 1 billion of people, we really think of it as billion career trajectories, how different people have progressed, right? So we anonymize all the PII stuff about these people, and we focus on their capabilities, their skills, their potential, and their career development.
All of a sudden, there seem to be dozens of companies that are trying to analyze skills. Tell us just a tiny bit about what you do to analyze skills that's unique.
6.5 years back, when we started the company, everyone was like, why AI? Second question was, what is a skill? How do you guys define the skill, right? Is this a skill? Is it a capability? Is it some other keyword or artifact, right? And one thing that we did from day one, we were like, let's understand what people have done with the primary purpose of understanding what they can do next. So it was less about what you have done, what skills you are saying in your resume, and a very simple analysis, walking through the details, right? Is we look at every person, what skills this person has in year 1, what skills this person has in year 2, what skills this person has in year 3. Using that to understand what skills in year 1 reflected into the learnability of skills in year 2, what skills in year 2 reflected in the learnability of the skills in year 3. So this way, when a company is trying to hire this person or trying to promote or internal mobility, they can say that, okay, this person has had these skills till date. What it means about this person's skill next year. So it has always been about skill learnability and future skills and skills potential.
You were already thinking about a much deeper level of understanding from history, from context, from career trajectory, from projects, from relationships people had with each other. And today, because the skills problem is so ubiquitous, every vendor claims to have some form of skills technology. And my assessment is that you guys are at least one generation ahead, maybe 2 generations ahead of most of the technology in the market that's trying to do this. And I think it's because of your AI background, and I think it's because of the problem you're trying to solve, the depth of the problem, and just the way you guys have been thinking about the problem for a long time.
When we think about the skills, another thing we think a lot about is skill context. What is the context in which we are talking about this skill? The other thing which has worked out well for us and important for this industry is from day one, we were all about diversity. That how do you reduce the bias? And one of the conjectures that we have had going from day one was anything that is not relevant for the job should not be part of the resume. And it started out
so you just ignore information that's not relevant.
That's not relevant for the job, right? And simple thing was that your name is not relevant, your age is not relevant, your gender is not relevant, your race is not relevant, your ethnicity is not relevant. In fact, it does not even matter whether you worked at Google versus Facebook versus Microsoft. What is really relevant is your skills and your learnability. So it almost came out of thinking about like what is relevant for the job and focus on that.
There's been a flurry of interest in fears of AI, regulating AI, laws passed in New York State and other places. What do you think we should do about regulation in AI, and what role does Eightfold play in all this?
I think like any important technology, any important development in our society, as they say, with great power comes great responsibility, and AI is one of those things. AI is extremely powerful, it can do a lot, but if you're not being responsible with it, you may not go too far with it, right? Now there's debate going on around who is responsible. Is vendor responsible? Is the buyer of this technology responsible, or someone else? And frankly, the answer is all of us. As a candidate, it is my responsibility to ensure that I'm providing the right data. As an employer, it is my responsibility that when I'm using these systems, I am using them in a way, the way they are designed. I'm not misusing them. I'm using it to reduce the bias versus perpetuate the bias. But these are complex systems. These are complex technologies. Expecting everyone in the world to know the intricacies and the details of these is hard. Take, for example, OpenAI. I'm using ChatGPT, you're using ChatGPT. Neither of us know what data it was trained on, and what are the number of parameters of this model, and who designed it, or any of those things, right? So in that case, it is the responsibility of the vendor who's also building these systems to take the ownership of what these systems can and cannot do. So I see that these regulations is a great thing, provided they not hinder the development and innovation over here. AI should be developed with transparency in mind. AI should be developed with right analytics so that you can see how these systems are behaving, what are they doing, is the intended use of these systems the way they are designed. But then all three of us, like vendors, users, and employers, should take the responsibility to make sure that these systems are designed well.
So today, Jeffrey Hinton was in the New York Times talking about the fact that who apparently is sort of one of the founders of the neural network, he believes that AI could end the human race. What's your position on these kinds of conversations?
If we look at the history of last 60 years, 70 years, it's the longest stretch where we never had any deadly war. And the reason is nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons have stopped war, not created the war, right? So if you think from that angle, right, these technologies are extremely powerful. Can they be misused? Yes, they can be misused, right? You can really train an AI system to do extremely bad things in society. Yes, you can do that. It is true for any technology out there. So AI is not the only thing that can end the human race. There are thousands of other things in the world that can end the human race, including humans who are the most capable of ending the human race. The world is still full of lot of problems that need to get solved. 6 months back, I lost my dad to cancer. And I wish there was a treatment available. And what I was told by every doctor was, don't even bother with the treatment because it's going to be painful and the outcome won't be there. I wish AI is advanced enough to come up with a solution to those kind of problems. The weather, climate everywhere in the world is a mess right now.
Yeah.
I wish AI was advanced enough to solve for that. I wish, even though I live in California, 10 miles from the ocean, and we struggle about the clean water, AI was advanced enough to solve these problems. So I think there's a lot AI can do in a positive sense.
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be, let's focus in building these technologies that are aligned to solve the world's problem, including employment and HR. And let's be responsible.
The regulations are starting to come. There's a regulation in New York. There's a couple of regulations, or one in Chicago. But relative to hiring, of course, the EEOC already has laws that prohibit discrimination.
I think you brought up a very interesting point. The EEOC is already there.
Right.
And they have been regulating
Right.
for years what humans cannot do
Right.
in the employment process, right? And the way we look at AI systems is really nothing else but assisted intelligence. How
So the laws already exist.
the
in a
laws
sense.
already exist, right?
Yeah.
To control, to ensure that
Right.
right things are happening. Buyers of these solutions, the people who are deploying these solutions, should ensure that these systems are following those laws, adopting, adjusting to that. And over time, regulations will come. Those regulations will come in terms of transparency, in terms of the data, in terms of algorithms, in terms of bias. And as these are coming in, this is going to be an ongoing thing. This is not a one-time thing. So companies should adopt, adjust, keep looking at that. But the talent is today's problem. You can't wait for next 2 years, next 4 years for systems to settle, dust to settle before you adopt these things. If talent is your problem today, you need to solve it today. And you need to do what is the most important thing. So to your point, regulations are already there. Let's make sure that we respect those and solve today's talent problem.
But now we have new skills just flooding the world of business all the time. I mean, think about all the skills in AI that have come. Do you think the velocity of skills changing is something that even leads to more need for AI, or what is your thought about that topic?
To your point, right? Whether you have the skill or you don't have the skill. And typically we have thought about skills in isolation. Do you know Java or you don't know Java?
Right.
But let's take it even simpler example, right? Can you lift 50 pounds of weight or you cannot lift 50 pounds of weight? Well, if I give you a pulley, maybe you can lift 100 pounds of weight, but if without pulley, you cannot lift even 20 pounds of weight, right? And that is the new world of skills. 25 years back, when I was doing my PhD, internet was barely there. So you have to go to libraries, you have to find the paper, journals to read and study, and if it was not available, it was not available. Today, the context has become extremely important. So that's one axis, right? The context has become important, so you can't think of a skill as a binary concept. In the context, with the assistance available to me, do I know this thing or not?
So with a brand new skill, it's going to be very hard to find context. So you're going to be building signals on context very quickly.
So second thing that is happening actually is what I call, we are living in the world of super specialization. Is programming a skill? Is front-end programming a skill? Is Angular a skill? Is Node.js a skill? Where do you draw the line? So the way
the adjacency helps you.
Adjacency, learnability, and available systems around you. So when I was coding at Google, because of the libraries that were available to me, coding in C++ was way faster than I could code in Python. But if you take away all those standard libraries, then coding in C++ becomes extremely slow. So thinking of that context, that adjacency, that learnability has introduced multi-dimensional to every skill. Skills are no longer single dimensional, saying that do you have the skill or not? Or on a scale of 1 to 5, where do you lie? No.
Well, let me ask you another question about skills. How have you guys been doing on soft skills?
I would say soft skills are both the most important skills, or power skills are the most important skills that are needed to get the job done, but are also the skills that are most at the risk of creating a bias. We find people who are like us a lot more comfortable. We assume that if I have a power skill, someone who's like me, they will also have that power skill, right? So at 8foot, what we have done is we have, instead of thinking about whether someone has a specific power skill or not, what we have done focused on is what is required to be successful in this job. Learn from the people who have been successful in a similar job. What kind of trajectories they have had, what kind of experiences they have had, and how they have reflected into those power skills that have led to success over here. So for example, I'm hiring someone who needs to be really good in public speaking. Have they given interviews? Or maybe if they have not given any interviews, they have never been part of TV, but maybe they have been very active in extracurricular activities, which may have led to the development of power skills over there, like public speaking, or they have been doing internal tech talks. Now, here's a very interesting example for you. When you think of public speaking, right, you will think of actors, journalists, anchor persons, all those things will come to your mind, right? But what would rarely come to your mind is a researcher. You will never think of machine learning researcher as a public speaking person. But think about it, right? This is the person who is supposed to publish 4 or 5 papers every year, go to 5-6 conferences every year, give keynotes and talks over there every year in front of an audience of hundreds to thousands of people. So being a researcher can lead to public speaking as a skill. Right. And that is what we try to infer automatically from data.
Interesting. I think one of the big questions customers have about vendors is credibility. How do we know that you're as good at this as we think you are?
Eightfold AI's credibility comes from multiple places. One is years of experience. I personally started doing AI 28 years back when we would do things like Markov models, speech recognition, hidden Markov models, Bayesian analysis, and so on. And over the years, working across multiple domains, it gives us a sense of how the data works, how these models learn, what is the generalizability of these models, what will work well in the field or not. Second thing is the scale of the data that which you are working. Today, we are working with the data of more than 1 billion people across the globe. It's not about one person here, one person there, one industry or not, right? It comes from the unique data sets of around outcomes that we have collected over the years. So anytime when we go to customers, we try to collect as much data as we can. Of course, anonymize it to preserve privacy and security, so that we can learn from every outcome that enterprise has taken. It comes from not only using the best algorithms that are out there, but actually pushing the frontiers of advancement over here. A simple example is focusing on equal opportunity algorithms that enable systems to learn across every protected class, ensuring that the behavior of the system is same for man versus woman, young versus old, no matter who you are, right? It comes from the analytics that we build. It comes from the transparency that we bring to everyone. It comes from the patents that we have filed over the years. I personally have more than 60 patents to my name. At Eightfold, we have filed 20 plus patents already. Multiple books we have written on this topic. During my PhD, I published 40 plus conference papers on AI. So I have been doing it for years. And I'll give you one simple proof point. Is when we started the company, everyone was, you should just focus on tech sector, or you should focus on startup, or you should focus on English language. Today, we have customers using us across 25 plus languages, across 100 plus countries, across 20 plus industries. And the reason why we went with that is not just that the market is large or the problem is widespread, but there was a very interesting insight over there. Every large organization is pretty much hiring for every role. Google has doctors, neuroscientists on their payroll, and so does our system administrators and salespeople. So is Salesforce, and so is Mayo Clinic. The difference is Mayo Clinic will have a lot more doctors and Google will have a lot more engineers. By working with companies in healthcare space, we are able to go deep in healthcare data, which learning we can bring to a company like Google so every company may have a narrow understanding of the segment they are working in, but by bringing the data of everyone, we can build much richer models. So when we started the company, I had no idea what HR is. I didn't even know what is ATS. And I would struggle to figure out what is HRIS versus HRMS. But the interesting thing because of that was we never thought of the HR fragmentation. We never thought we are solving a talent acquisition problem or a talent management problem or a diversity problem or a succession planning problem or L&D problem or a career development problem or a payroll or performance problem, right? We always thought it is a talent problem. Enterprise need the best talent that can do the work wherever the talent is. So you can't think of talent as a siloed problem. And the reason why that is important is once you start cutting through this entire talent lifecycle, that is when you have the best understanding of the data. So that now you can think of who I am attracting, who I am hiring, who I am promoting, who I am growing in my company, who I am upskilling, who I am retaining over time, right? And what skills tell me that story, what skills don't tell me that story. So that has been our big focus area and a different approach to solving this problem.
Right. So as you know, Ashutosh, Workday, SAP, Oracle have all been investing in AI, and they claim to have software that's sort of equivalent to Eightfold in some respects, but they are fundamentally transaction systems. What do you think the role will be of their AI in the market versus yours?
First of all, I'm super excited that everyone is talking about AI. And everyone has accepted that it's no longer just a buzzword, but is a must-have to solve the talent problem. The challenge is, where are you starting first? Is AI an add-on to your transactional system? Or is transaction an add-on to an AI system? That is the fundamental difference between these incumbents and solutions like Eightfold. We always thought that AI is the fundamental problem. And it's not even the AI, actually. In the talent space, there are only 3 problems to solve. Understand every role, and as part of that, understand the task and skills and everything over there. Understand every person and mesh the two. We think of that as the foundational problem that needs to get solved. While understanding that the data is going to be noisy, it's going to be incomplete, people are going to misrepresent themselves, job descriptions are going to be noisy, inaccurate, reflection of the actual task that is needed to get done. In the world of that noisy data, can you solve these 3 problems? Understand people, understand jobs, and mesh the two. And once you solve that, everything else becomes a transaction on top of this. But on the other hand, if you start with a transaction system, you get limited by the data that you have. You get limited by the constraints that you impose. So, for example, when we go to our customers, the incumbents are always saying, give us the clean data, give us the pristine instance. Skills have to be structured and limited. There has to be a strict ontology. And if you remember the days of Yahoo, back Open Directory project, there's a directory structure. And at that time, it was very clear. Everything has to be that directory structure. Are you a healthcare company or an computer science company or a telecom company? Well, is Google a consumer company or an enterprise company? Is it an AI company or a search company? Not clear, right? It's all of those things, right? In fact, is it a healthcare company or not? With Verily, they are a healthcare company as well and an automobile company as well, right? So those boundaries are gone. In that world, you can't live in silos. You have to assume everything is noisy, partial, incomplete, messy, but can you make sense out of it? Because that is the real world.
So you started the company primarily focused on hiring initially, although I know your vision was much bigger than that. And now you're getting into the whole talent process. Tell us the story of how you got there.
As I stated earlier, we started the company with this primary problem of matching. And my thesis was, if we solve the matching, whether you're trying to hire talent, you're trying to develop talent, whether you go to a doctor and looking for who's a good doctor for you, whether you're trying to hire a patent attorney to see who will be a good patent attorney for you, you're trying to find a plumber, each of these are just talent matching problems. So our initial thesis was, let's focus on that matching problem. And if we solve that, as I said, I didn't know HR. So it was not about hiring, it was not about HR, it was about solving that talent matching problem that we started the company around. But then as the world has evolved over the next 6.5 years, the disruptions that we have seen in our society are greater than ever probably. Between 2017 to 2020, companies were only focused on hiring. So there were some of our customers who were using us for talent management, but people were like, we'll talk about talent management another day. I already have employees. I don't care about that. I really just want to hire people. So that led us to focus more on building capabilities on top of our matching engine for hiring purposes. As COVID happened, initially there was an aggressive slowdown, but very quickly companies realized that they need to retain the best talent they have. And the focus shifted from hiring to talent management. Then over the following year, the focus expanded because now companies were not able to hire, but they wanted to hire. They were growing rapidly, that they are like, I need to retain and I need to hire. So help me do both things. Now, as those things are happening and AI is growing really fast, the third thing that is happening in our society is the rate at which skills are changing is faster than ever. We say the half-life of a skill is 5 years, maybe now close to 3 years or 2 years, right? In that world, companies realize that they can no longer hire people who have the skills, but they have to develop. So as a result, we ended up focusing a lot on career development, career pathing, learning and development for people as well. Succession planning became a big thing. And now, especially this year, as these disruptors are reaching the peak, we've also launched workforce planning because now you have to really think of restructuring the organization in real time on an ongoing basis, because whatever tools and technologies you have access to today will change tomorrow and will change again. So you have to really rethink what is the nature of your workforce. Is it adopt to get the best out of these systems or not?
In some sense, Eightfold has followed the path of the economy. Your product has really evolved to deal with the newer business problems as the economy's changed.
You get measured on how well you are at predicting the future. And for that, first you have to understand where the world is likely going to be next 10 years from now, not today. Every year you have to inch the world towards that. Take people along with it, right? Yeah. For example, 2 years back, no one was talking about skills. We have to invest in skills, right? Last year, we were like, let's start the conversation on upskilling, which later last year, early this year became the hottest topic. This year, we are talking about workforce planning, strategic talent planning. Hopefully, over the next 2 years, you will see a lot more focus over there. Skill-based, everyone is talking about skills, but skill-based compensation is just around the corner.
Yep.
That is what will become the hottest thing.
Yep.
Over the last 3 years, we have been talking about how you should think about full-time employment versus contract worker in a single system, single experience, because it's all about total talent. It's no longer about the silos. I think over the next 3 years, we will see a lot more investment in that space as well. So constantly thinking about where the world is headed, little bit inching the world towards that. And so that has been our focus area.
Right. How do you think HR people should explain AI to their function, their peers?
The simplest way I would say is think of AI as a human being who can read all the text that is out there in the world, make sense out of it, can access it in real time, and help with decision making. But at the same time, the person is a human being, so will make mistakes, so will have flaws in their thinking and approaches. Highly scalable human being is how I think of it, right? Or I think of AI as assisted intelligence, not artificial intelligence, right? It's not magic, but it can do a lot.
Yeah.
It's now and here. It is here to help you scale and do your job consistently at scale on an ongoing basis. Help you adopt, adjust to changing realities. The world is moving fast. And if you don't do it, you are going to be left behind. The other thing is, it's also a great normalizer. For me, personally speaking, I'm good with math, I'm good with algorithms, I'm good with programming, but I have a severe handicap in terms of my accent. English being a second language for me, no longer a first language. Now, what do I do? Till 2 years back, I could not make use of devices like Alexa and Google Home because they would never understand my accent. I would keep calling AT&T and they will keep saying, please repeat, please repeat, please repeat. But now, these devices understand who I am. They are able to understand my language. And that helps me do my job much, much better. Or I can use various tools to fact check, grammar check my English. So I'm no longer scared of writing a long email because it will, at least I won't make a fool of myself by writing a poor English, right? So in that sense, it's actually a great normalizer.
Yeah, that's great.
It's also breaking down the boundaries that we have across the geographic locations. Today, simply, right, at eightfold, our system is used in languages that I have no understanding of myself. But it's not about what I know. It's can I learn from the data and deploy it, right?
What do you think HR professionals and leaders should be telling the rest of their organization about AI that matters to them?
So first, AI is not going to take away the jobs, but AI may take away the job of the people who don't adopt AI over the people who adopt AI, because the expectation of the organizations are changing. As an employee in a large organization, you are expected to perform much more now because of the availability of these tools and technologies, right? And even if you don't, other people in your organization, and even if people in your not organization are doing it, other people in other organization are doing it, right? So at some level, you don't have a choice. AI is now and here. I think the challenge that is happening is many people are afraid of AI. Is it going to take away my job? Is it going to destroy the world? Or the gloom and doom, right? But AI is already in our lives. The reason why we have this recording available today at a high contrast, right, is because of the AI. There's the reason why we are able to get the best medical treatment out there is because of AI. AI is already there in our lives. And once we understand that it's already there, some fear goes down. It's no longer there. Second is, no one is building these AI systems to take away your job. That's not the goal. The goal is to help you scale and do your job much better. If you ask any one of us, right, anytime I'm hiring people, the very first thing is, or you asked a software engineer, right? Let's just take a stereotypical example of that. They love system design. They love algorithms. But then they end up spending 95% of their time just coding and testing the software. AI can help you do that part. These AI systems are just learning from the data. They don't have the smartness and the intelligence of humans, but then they can bring all the data to limelight, make it transparent, right? And so my ask to all the HR leaders will be, don't fear AI. Be thoughtful about deploying it. Focus on educating your teams. Focus on educating your peer group around what it can do. Don't expect magic. Expect assistance from AI systems. But then also put enough safeguards in place to track how the systems are behaving. Are they making your life better or not? Are they delivering the outcomes that you desire?
What do you think the role of IT should be in the selection or implementation or adoption of technology like Eightfold?
IT needs to evolve from being the office of CIO, which is Chief Information Officer, to Chief Intelligence Officer. Now the AI systems are actually not designed to solve the CIO's problem at some level. They are designed to solve the business problem. Now the focus is on solving business problems versus just solving the IT's problem. Now CIOs can play an extremely important and critical role in understanding how these systems are developing, how they are being deployed, what data they are consuming, what metrics are being put in place. And if they do that, they can be the change agent for the rest of the organization and bring the business value. So by solving it not just for themselves, but by solving it for the business outcome of the organization, CIOs can again be on the front seat. One of the biggest problems to solve in society is employment. If we provide right career to everyone, we'll make the world a much better place. There was a time when I used to think, what is the purpose of HR? But over time, as my career grew, I realized that as HR leaders, we help everyone get the right job. We enable careers. And that is the biggest contribution we can have to our society. So if someone were to ask me which is the single most impactful job in the world, it's not doctors, it's not even your teacher, it's not law enforcement, it is really HR. Help people get the right career. Because if once we do that, everything else follows from there.
Ashu, thank you so much. This has been really an interesting educational conversation, and we're really excited to hear about what's next with Eightfold as time moves on.
Thank you, Josh. It's always a pleasure and a lot of learning from you. And thank you for support over the years.
Thank you.